If I could go back 6 years, all the way to the moment where I was about to put down a deposit on a home-built adventure airplane kit, would I build the Rans S21 again? I spent the last 2 years pushing this airplane to the limits and finding out what it can actually do and what it's built for and what it's not. And stick around to the end because I'll give you the answer, honest answer, which actually surprised me a little bit on would I build the Rans S21 again. Almost 6 years ago, I was wrapping up my career flying F-15s and retraining on the 737, and I had this concept of flying into the backcountry, doing some fly fishing adventures, flying with friends, but I'd never done that yet, and I really didn't know anybody who did. Here's the thing nobody tells you about picking a kit. I had a concept of a mission, but I didn't have a mission yet. I wasn't actually doing it yet. So I didn't know what my mission truly was. I had to define it from a spec sheet. You guys might remember the video that kind of launched Clear Direct. I was weighing a whole bunch of options, but it came down to two: the Rans S21 and the Kitfox Series 7. And 4 specs jumped off that spec sheet for me. 800-pound useful load, 150-mile-an-hour top speed, 48 gallons of fuel, and an all-aluminum skin wrapped around a steel cage. All those things made this the winner. And I want to say this up front, I wasn't wrong, but I wasn't complete either. And that's what this video is all about. This airplane hasn't been just a ride. It's been a backcountry video platform. And not many experimentals can actually do that this well. And that's been part of the fun, is just putting video cables everywhere and recording it and getting creative. And also shout out to the whole experimental world, because that allows you to do so much. And I've really, really enjoyed that part of it. I've also tested new solutions, new products, new bush wheels, new brakes, new fairings, new propellers. I mean, that actually blows my mind in the last 2 years how much I've actually modified this airplane. So in that regard, it's really scratched that creative and experimental itch I've had since I was a little boy. I even got it IFR certified, and I also raced it in STOL Drag World Championships, made it to the quarterfinals and lost a break and spun out. Shout out to Behringer for saving the day there. But the Backcountry Bogey took everything I threw at it and handled it really, really well and did a whole lot more. And it's a great cruiser aircraft. Now let's go back to those 4 items I picked off the spec sheet, because 2 years of real flying has a good way of grading your homework. So useful load and fuel. I got this more right than I could know. It's been amazing to have 800 pounds useful load and 48 gallons of fuel. In fact, in the backcountry, routinely, I'm giving Cubs and other aircraft my fuel because I got plenty. Giving away fuel lightens me up, gives them a little bit of peace of mind, and everybody wins. If I changed nothing about this airplane, I'd keep the fuel and maybe bump up the useful load just a hair, but the fuel has been absolutely my favorite thing about this airplane. Again, 48 gallons, cruising lean to peak at about just shy of 8 gallons an hour. That range is just ginormous. Now, obviously I've learned a lot about the flying qualities, and Randy did a great job designing this thing. Flight controls are super light, it's nimble, but the exterior, it's an aluminum skin, and a lot of it is 0.020 20,000th aluminum, and picks up some dings. The tail is really, really low, so it picks up, some of those rocks that the big Alaska bush wheels put up on the gravel bars. So if the tail were maybe just a little bit higher, then you're changing flying qualities, of course, especially spin characteristics, but maybe a steel tube frame that goes to the aft and have some fabric. I mean, the S20 kind of was that same way. To have a little bit more capability to repair, put tape on, or rebuild tail feathers, it's all a trade-off. And I'm not grading the design or the manufacturing of it. It's just been my experience of owning a steel cage aircraft with an aluminum skin. Top speed, 150 miles an hour. Here's where I overweighted that a little bit. So I go from Bend, Oregon and meet up with my buddies in surrounding states and go adventure, and usually I'm flying with them. I overweighted the amount of time that I would be traveling to meet up with my buddies, because at that point I'm pulling the engine back and not using that top end airspeed. It is great, don't get me wrong. 150 miles an hour gets you places pretty darn quick and pretty efficiently in this airplane. By the way, I've got the Titan IO 340, normally aspirated, fuel injection, electronic ignition. So yeah, it's pretty powerful. But it runs a little bit hot. We've taken care of that with some cooling mods, and it giddy up and go, especially with the Catto prop. You can adjust it to STOL, you could adjust it to cruise, you could adjust it to the tweener land, which is where I routinely fly, except when I'm doing some serious STOL or STOL drag competitions, then I'll flatten it out and have it wind up to 2,700 RPM as quickly as it can. But then I put 29s on the airplane. It's loaded down, absolutely. But I didn't miss that 10 miles an hour of speed. I'm still cruising at 135 with some other mods that makes it a little bit heavier. And I don't miss that really at all. And then this is the part that I really didn't see coming. A lot of my Cub buddies and a lot of aircraft manufacturers are leaning into the Rotax 916 revolution. They've got turbos. Yeah, they got small cylinders, but they're very efficient engines and they can get up really high because of those turbos. And they're cruising almost as fast as I am, yet they're retaining their slow end Cub speed. It's a light motor. So I really didn't see that coming, and it's really closing the gap. So the 150 number I thought was gonna be a really defining feature of this airplane. It's great, but it doesn't define this airplane at all, for me. Again, caveat, everything is about my mission and my experience. 2 years ago, if you showed me some of the places I've gone, all the way up to Alaska, Oshkosh, Wisconsin, California, and almost everywhere in between, yeah, that's what I built this aircraft for. So that didn't surprise me, but what I'm doing and getting into some of the smaller strips, thanks to the VGs that really help the stall speed, that's really where I've grown as a pilot, as well as this airplane has grown in capabilities. But you give me a little taste of those short strips, and I want more. I want it all. So this brings me to the thing that I really couldn't have known when I was picking a kit. The mission evolves faster than this airplane. When you don't know your mission, you optimize for the spec sheet. When you do know your mission, you optimize for the flying. First, I'm rebuilding the tail. I mentioned the dings that I took. Well, I took one bigger one that's on a rib, so I'm just gonna reorder. I've already reordered the tail and it's showing up here soon. And I'm gonna rebuild it, I'm gonna get it repainted, and I'm gonna add in a Cessna style leading edge to the horizontal stab. Not a big fix. I mean, it is gonna take a lot of money and some time, but it's a smart fix, and one that I think will really help this airplane. Second, and this is the bigger one, I'm learning to read gravel bars. Some are doable for this airplane, some not so much. Some are just, you know, luckily I've stayed out of the ones that I just can't. But that's not this airplane. It's more of the pilot and shopping the gravel bar and reading it and knowing your limitations. And that's part of the fun. So I'm not upset that I can't land on every single rock pile out there. But when my Cub buddies are getting in and I'm orbiting above, it's good. It's a good, safe decision, yay. But again, I want in. What the Bogey is and what it isn't. So here's an honest summary. The most extreme Cub stuff, I honestly hedged my bets a little bit. I wanted the top end, as I've mentioned, but I kind of self-limited. I wanted to limit myself such that I wouldn't be tempted to get into some of those gnarly Cub only strips. But now that I'm learning my skills, yeah, is it a deal breaker on this airplane? Absolutely not. Keeps me safe because I know my limits and I'm not tempted to land on some of those things that some of my friends land on. That's not what this airplane was built for. That's not why I built this airplane. So, would I build the Rans S21 again? Given what I knew then, absolutely. I built the perfect airplane for the mission I could see. Given what I know now, it is still the right airplane for that mission. Yes, it has evolved. The airplane has evolved with everything that I've talked about, but it's the mission that's evolving, not necessarily as much on the airplane side. Also, the pilot is evolving. The Backcountry Bogey is an awesome airplane, and it does better than any right that I had to ask it to do when I was starting from a spec sheet 6 years ago. If I were to do it over, I'd weigh a couple of things differently. But the airplane I built, I'm proud of it, and it gives me confidence. And let's face it, a little bit of love. Do I have wandering eyes? Absolutely. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. All right, come find me in the backcountry or at Oshkosh this year, and I'm proud to say I'm gonna be in the Catto propellers booth. And listen, if you weren't planning on coming to Oshkosh this year, I'll just say that there's gonna be a lot of drops from a lot of different companies in a lot of different booths. It's gonna be a big year at AirVenture this year, and that's about all I'm allowed to say. Plus, we'll have stickers. All right, thanks for watching. I'm Steve. Until next time, you're cleared direct.